everybody. Good afternoon. This is Leslie from the Plaid Poodle. I teach people how to make beautiful paper crafts using stamps, paper, and ink. I'm gonna just chat a minute and wait while everyone logs in. Hi, Donna. I apologize for not being here this morning. I had an appointment that I completely forgot about. I try and keep that in mind when I make my appointments, but this was unavoidable. So I hope you all are having a great day. In Kansas City here, we're having kind of an ice storm, but I was able to get around okay. Our driveway is a little bit of a ice skating rink, but the roads, I don't know if they put salt down or whatever, but I didn't have any trouble getting around. I think the worst of it's coming this evening, so hopefully tomorrow won't be so icky. I worry about the people having to get out and get to work when the roads are bad, so especially ice. It's not much you can do with ice. Anyway, today I got a box of chocolates on Monday. I think it was 41 years ago. I had my first date with my now husband. I was 15, and my mother said that I would not be allowed to date until I was 16, so she must have thought something of Bruce, but she let me go out. We went to Pizza Hut, and he didn't tell me we were going to eat, so I'd already eaten. So I just sat and watched him eat pizza, and then we went to a movie, and I can't remember what kind of movie it was, but I remember Clint Eastwood was in it. Hey, Kathy. And we lived in this small town of Coffeyville, Kansas. I had just moved into town. I was kind of the new girl. Hi, Letha. And we only had one theater, but it was pretty. There was a balcony, and of course you sat in the balcony. So it was really fun, and when we came out of the movie, his friends, he drove a Ford Pinto. Remember the Pinto? He drove a Ford Pinto, and his friends had filled it with those styrofoam packing peanuts. I mean, from floor to ceiling, so that when he opened the door, they all came out. I don't even know how they got in. They must have used a coat hanger to get in it. I don't know, but they were hiding around the corner in the alley, and he ran after them. It was pretty awkward for me, but anyway, that was our first date. Hi, Donna. Hi, Joy. He gave me this box of chocolates. I'm going to turn the camera around, and I just was kind of enthralled by the box. It has a little slot to put a card in. It's a Valentine's box. So I'm going to turn the camera around, and I'll show you what I came up with. So you're going to see some, my ugly lights again and all my notes, and then it'll jiggle a little bit. Hey, Betty. There we go. Get everything kind of straight. This is the box. I'll show you. He gave it to me Monday, and look what's left. And he hasn't eaten any. I've eaten a lot of it. But look, remember the olden days when they'd be in those little wrappers, and it was filled from, edge to edge with little wrappers? Now they kind of deceive you with this little plastic tray, thinking you're gonna get a big full box of chocolates. Anyway, look, it has this little slot made in the box, so you can slide your little Valentine card in there. So I thought that was pretty clever. So I came up with kind of a mini me card, and I'm going to show you how I did it. This box, I could have made a heart-shaped box, but you guys, it would have taken forever, and what's the point? So I made a square box and then covered it with hearts. And then it's got a nice little area for candy or jewelry or treats. So, and then I made a little slot to put a little sentiment in. So let's get started. There's quite a few steps, but I went ahead and cut extras so we'd be okay with that. The hardest part is going to be making the box, and I will post my diagrams that I always post with my boxes. Here's my little cheat sheet. But you're going to start with a piece of 8.5 inch by 5.5 inch cardstock, and I'm using real red to match my Valentine box. And I'm going to use my scoring tool, my Simply Scored tool, because there's a little bit of scoring. So on the 8.5 inch side, it's pretty easy. It's a 2, 4, 6, 8 box. So you're going to score it at 2 inches, 4 inches, 6 inches, and then 8 inches. So there's those 4 score lines. Then turn it, and on the 5.5 inch side, score it at 1.5, and 3, and 5. Okay, and that's all the scoring. And then we're going to trim. So I'm going to look at my little, this is my little, a lot of times when I'm trying to create something, here's a little piece. I just use kind of some cheap paper to play with so I can get my measurements right. So this is my final that I came up with, but I always like to try it out on something that I don't spend a whole lot of money on. So on this little 1/2 inch section that we've got here, we're going to cut this little piece off. And I'm just cutting right on that score line that we made. That's the 8 inch score line. Then this is going to be a tab, so I'm going to go ahead and cut in while I'm here. And then this is the bottom. Just make sure when you're doing this, because when I was making my sample, I goofed and I cut this side. You want to make sure that your bottom is the 1.5 inch section. But you'll know the top because you have this little 1/2 inch. So these are your bottom flaps of your box. So I'm just cutting up, and I'm going to trim a couple of these tabs. The side tabs is what they are. I usually don't trim the front tab. Sometimes I'll trim the back tab. So this will be the front tab and this will be the back tab. It'll all make sense here in a minute. Then we're going to cut on this score line all the way down to this second score line. We still have the 1/2 inch, and we're just going to cut this all the way off. Do not get rid of this. I use this for everything. You can punch a little heart, a little circle, put that in your scrap pile. We don't need to waste it. And then just take your bone folder and fold up on all these score lines. Hey, Linda. And this is going to be the lid to the box, and we're going to have this little flap that tucks right into the box. So before I glue anything together, I am going to round the corners of the lid flap, this little 1/2-inch flap. The box is going to go together like this. This is our lid. So I'm going to stick it in here into my, I always forget what this is called, but it has a corner rounder on it. There's a little hole punch, a corner rounder, and then a decorative corner edge. There we go. Now we can just glue the box together. Well, that wasn't too hard. I might have to run and get another glue bottle. I try and use every little dab before I throw that sucker away. I love that glue. I wish they sold it in gallon jugs. Okay, we can get rid of my little... Okay, now we're going to tuck the sides in and the back. Try a different bottle of glue. You don't have to glue this back tab down, but I like to. So I'm just going to hold that there for a second. And then here's our front tab. Might get that a little bit better. And that's the bottom of the box. You can kind of use your bone folder to make sure everything's pressed. So that's the little box. So if you just wanted to make a little box, there you go. I would put a little punch there. Just see, I've got the lid stuck in there. If I was just going to make the box by itself. But we're going to have the little heart to pull it up and down. So that's the hardest part. There are a lot of steps and a lot of cutting, but that's really the hardest part, is just getting that box put together. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we need to make a top and a bottom. So we're going to cut 4 of these, because I've finished them off. We're going to cut 4 of these scalloped hearts, and I have cut 3 of them already, and we're going to glue them together. So I'll show you in a minute, in case I don't want to get ahead of myself. This is a piece of, what size is this? I wrote it down. 4 by 4 1/4. And it's probably a little big. I probably could have gotten it a little smaller to save a little bit more paper. But so I'll need 4 pieces of 4 by 4 1/4 inch to cut 4 of these large hearts out. Because we need 4 of those. And as long as I've got my big shot here, I am going to cut everything out at once. This little ornament, or just the little sentiment tag, I finished the back off, so I cut 2 of these hearts out. So we're gonna, I already cut 1 out, but I'll show you that I used the 2 dies because that's what it requires to get that little stitched heart. You have to use that other framelit. So now I will have 2 of these little stitched hearts that we'll need for that little sentiment. Then I need, this was kind of tricky as well. I'm going to move the big shot. I'm trying to see if my camera, are you all seeing okay? Oh, sorry about that. The camera's a little wonky. There we go. This part, this is kind of tricky, but this is how I did it. I took another piece of 4 by 4 1/4 inch crumb cake colored cardstock. And then I had to take these dies again. And I tried several different ways to get this gold glitter on here. But I found the easiest way was just to glue it on to my square. This is, this piece is 4.5 by 5 inches wide. I hope I'm not losing y'all. I do better at the 11 o'clock than I do at the 4 o'clock. Ah, long day, right? Okay, so then I just kind of put it on there at a diagonal. I glued it and everything, so when I die cut it out, and then I put my heart where I needed it to be, or where I wanted it to be. So that looks pretty good. Whoops. Okay, I'm going to use a little washi tape just to hold that in place. Thank you, Letha. Sometimes I wonder if I'm just stumbling around and if what I'm saying is making sense. I feel like I talk too fast sometimes. Okay, so that's how I'm doing that. So let's cut that out. A lot of die cutting, but once we get this all done, it's just putting it together. And since I've got a couple layers in there, I'm gonna just roll it a couple of times. Okay, so now we're gonna have 4 of these. Let's get all these pieces out here. There's the 3 that I already did earlier. There go my dogs. My grandkids are coming tonight. I have them for 3 days. And they're supposed to come between 5 and 6, so let's just cross our fingers. That's when they come. Otherwise, you guys are gonna meet my grandkids. They'll come looking for me. Okay. So we've got 4 of these and 1 of these. Now these pieces aren't connected. So since we're gonna glue these together, all I did was I just used some tape. There might be a better plan. If you have one, I would love to hear it. But this is how I did it. I just need them to stick together, and then once I glue them together, they're not going to go anywhere. I kind of got overkill on them. I was listening to the radio. Sitting here listening to the radio. Okay, so we have 4 of these. Here's our heart. We need 2 for the top and 2 for the bottom. Then this one we also want to tape together, but we're going to cut it right along the edge of the glimmer paper, because this is what we're going to use to make the little pocket to stick our little sentiment in. So I know this is kind of tedious, but thank you guys for your patience. This one I'm going to be a little bit more careful with because I don't know where I'm going to be able to be cutting it until I turn it over. So I'm going to make sure, That little scalloped piece is, whoops, there we go. Okay, now the only thing we need, we already cut out these two stitched hearts. We're going to use one for the front and one for the back. We need this little laced edge, and this is the die we're going to use. So let's get all this out of the way. And in just a minute, I'll show you where I'm getting all this stuff from. And before I change out my plates, these little tiny hearts, I'm going to use this little framelit. If you watched my 14 days of Valentine's, I've used these framelits over and over again, but they're so much fun. I love that I'm getting so much use out of them. A lot of times I'll just make a couple of little things and then be done, but I have gotten so much use out of these framelits. Okay, this is a very intricate die, so I'm going to change out my platform on my big shot, and I am going to use the precision base plate. I don't know if it's necessary, but just to be safe, I'm going to use it. You can see this plate. And again, since it's so delicate or intricate, I'm going to run it a couple of times. All right, we're done with all our die cutting. Hope you Kansas City girls are staying warm and safe. My mom called me this afternoon to make sure I was home. She worries about me. I really didn't have any trouble. I was out and about, and I really didn't have any trouble. Our driveway, on the other hand, is a lawsuit waiting to happen. I don't know what to do. Do you guys know what to put on driveways that doesn't eat away, or you know, sidewalks that doesn't eat away the concrete? Because if you put the salt down, it really does a number. Our previous home we lived in for 21 years, and we eventually had to replace the driveway and front walk. I know it was from just throwing ice or salt down during ice storms. So I don't know. Do you guys have a special thing you use? Is there a special product you can use that doesn't really destroy your concrete? Driveways are expensive. Okay. Now, let's look at our pieces again. Here's our box. Here's our little tag. So I made the two little hearts, and that's going to make our little doodad. I made 4 of these and 1 of these. So let's cut this, and then we'll stamp, and then we'll put the box together. Oh, my mom doesn't drive me nuts. I am the one that should be calling her and say, okay, how are you doing? Do you have what you need? She just knows I was going to be out today, so she wanted to make sure I was back home. Okay, see how I lined that line up onto my trimmer. And there's our little pocket piece. This piece, unfortunately, we just throw away. Well, sand would work. That's a good idea, Betty. I'll have to tell my husband that. Okay. Now we're going to glue these together. I'm going to just glue 2 hearts together. And I just wanted it finished on both sides. I don't know if it was necessary to. Plus it makes it more substantial. So that's how I did it. So I'm going to glue 2 hearts together for the bottom. Yeah, you're right, Betty. Kitty litter. That's a good idea too. Oops. I think I'm going to put one more piece of tape right there. I think once I put the glue on, it's going to hold everything, but I don't want my little scalloped piece to come off of here. Probably if I focused on the edge a little bit more too. Okay. And those scallops just line up perfectly. I like to use the liquid glue just because it gives me just a smidge of time to kind of move it in place. Looks like I have a piece of tape hanging out. But I'm not going to worry about it right now. Okay, then we're going to glue. Make sure you've got the front of the box. Glue the box on. I think I picked up the wrong bottle. No, I didn't. Well, get that glue all over. Okay, where's the front of the box? I keep losing it. There we go. So I'm just going to center that box right on the heart. And then we're going to tuck that in there. And then I think we'll make the lid, put the little pocket on. So the little pocket, all I did, whoops, it's feast or famine, is I just put a little glue around the edges. Let's take some of that off. I just thought these turned out so cute. If I do say so myself. I had so much fun figuring this out. It took me all day yesterday. Okay. Now let's put the little hearts on. And on my sample box, they had the hearts all lined up in a row like little soldiers, but ain't nobody got time for that. So I just put them kind of dancing around in there. And I use the smaller ones. And they're a little too small for the mini glue dots. So I did my little trick that I like to do with the glue. And I use my little sponge and my tweezers. They're so small, they're a little hard to get. And I just kind of stuck them on here any which way. If you had one of those Xyron machines, I used to have one of those, and I probably still do if I could find it. That would kind of work too. And Stampin' Up! Does sell a sheet of adhesive that you run it through, and I just always forget and never get around to getting it out of the... Hunting it down. Isn't that the truth? I don't know. If you guys keep your things more organized than I do. Oh, Betty's seen my craft room. Haven't you, Betty? Ugh. Don't tell. It just is not on my priority list, right? Plus, it's that room. You know, it used to be a guest room. It's that room you just throw everything when... it's that room you throw everything to get it out of the way because you don't know what to do with it, so... I don't know. Maybe you guys don't have a room like that. I have to have a closet or something. The garage is also a place to throw things, right? Get it out of the way. Problem with that is you forget about it. Okay, that's probably enough. Maybe one more right at the bottom. Need a little bit more glue. Maybe a big one right there. That's cute. Okay. I think I need one right there. We'll see. Okay. Now we're going to glue it onto the top of the box. And I just put a little glue right on the lid. And I am going to pull that little sucker up here. Keeps wanting to... Whoa! That would have been bad. Just want to very gently put it on your box and center it. I'm going to try and do this without getting it over. Let me look at it a second. There we go. Whoa. Once that glue sticks, I think we're pretty centered. Try and pull that up and press it down to dry. Oh, Betty, I can't believe your whole house at times. Okay. All right, now to make the little tag, I am going to glue. We cut this little filigree heart out. Isn't that pretty? Now we're going to cover up the pretty part. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on the edge of this heart, and this is going to be the back. I just wanted to stamp something. And then it's finished on the back by putting that there. And then we're going to take a little bit of the Real Red 1/8 inch ribbon and just cut and I found that if I put some really strong adhesive, this is fast fuse, but we're going to also glue the heart on there too. It'll hold pretty well. I'm going to put a little piece on top. You know, it doesn't matter what it looks like on the inside. It's all smoke and mirrors, right? Now we need to stamp the You Make Me Happy. And I'm going to use my, I'm going to use my Stamparatus here because I want it to be right in the center of that heart. And the stamp is from the Meant to Be stamp set that I've been using a lot. And all the framelits I'm using are the Be Mine stitch framelits that I've also been using a lot. And this is a red rubber stamp, so we don't need that. I'm just gonna set that on there. The reason I'm using the Stamparatus is because I'm gonna use some real red ink on this crumb cake cardstock, and sometimes the first time it just kind of absorbs the ink really fast and it doesn't give me a real colorful. I need it to be darker. I don't know how to say that. I need it to be darker. So I do it a couple of times that way. See, it's okay, but it's not as, if I do it a couple more times, it's gonna add a little bit more ink, and that little message is a little happier. It's a little darker. That's why I use the Stamparatus on that. And that was real red ink. We're keeping it in the color family. Okay. We are almost done, people. So then we're just going to glue this little heart right on the center. Hey, Carol. That is the little tag. Isn't that sweet? I just think it's sweet. And then it tucks right into your little chocolate box or whatever you want to put in there. Like I said, it's pretty big size. So you could fit some chocolates in there, or a little jewelry or whatever for a Valentine treat. Anyway, that is my, what did you call it? My, that's what I came up with. This was my inspiration, my box of chocolates, and I just loved that it had the little pocket. And I thought, I can do that. So this is what I came up with. I can't wait to give this to someone. I just think it's sweet. So thank you, gals, for stopping in and watching. And make sure you like my page, and I'd love it if you shared the video. Helps me out. And y'all stay safe and warm tonight, and we'll talk to you soon. Good night.